is to create an opportunity, an avenue, if you will, to learn off the experiences of those who have gone ahead of us. We do believe their experiences, their knowledge would serve as a stepping stone forward for us. It would aid our growth and speed the process up for us. And today we are lucky to have Chooks and Festus here, and the program will be moderated by Simi. Like we talked about Chooks, sorry, about Festus earlier. We had met in Nigeria, and he is a very wonderful person. And I'm sure that was before Amazon, and I'm sure Amazon would have made him more wonderful to meet. And Chooks, on the other hand, I've known Chooks socially, is my hangout party. So it's nice having these guys here to tell us more how we can go into tech. But I'll be handing over to Simi, and Simi, floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Abdul. I think it's a great pleasure for me to be here. I'll start off by introducing myself, and then I'll introduce the panelists, and then I'll also allow them to speak more about themselves, and then we'll go straight right into the questions. So my name is Similola Adene. I'm currently a first year at Duke Fuqua's Business School, looking to recruit into tech and as well as consulting. I have a couple of years experience within the fintech space, but I'll majorly say that's financial services, the IT part of financial services. Yeah, basically that's all about me. And then we have two strong towers here that I would be interviewing, Chooks Igabari and Festus Olatunde. Funny enough, I think I've had some interactions with Chooks over the past year, the pandemic and all of that. So yeah, it's really great to see you again here, Chooks. And thank you for your support, in my journey to be here as well. So yeah, sorry, that was just, that was just off the record, yeah. But basically we have two strong towers, like I said here, from the tech space. Chooks is currently interning at Amazon, and did I get that right? Yeah, Amazon, right? Google. Yeah, sorry, I think I mixed that up. Chooks is interning at Google as a product ops within the platforms part of Google, and Festus is interning in Amazon as a financial analyst. Yeah, under the FLDP program. So I'll just allow them to introduce themselves, further give us, a sneak peek into their professional background, starting from their undergrad course, their pre-MBA career path, the MBA, their current MBA program, and the specializations and concentrations, if any, while they were, in their first year, and their, the company that they're in and role. And yeah, just briefly though, so that we can go into the other questions. So we can start with Chooks. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. Good evening, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are. My name is Chooks. Prior to business school, so my undergraduate degree was in petroleum and gas engineering, University of Lagos. And then post the undergraduate, I moved to fintech into Switch Limited, where I worked in strategic management function of the company for a couple of years. And then I wanted to broaden my horizon across several functions within the business. And so I went to go to business school to learn a lot about business and such. I went to Georgetown University to pursue an MBA. And luckily for me, I have been able to get an internship at Google, and I'm happy to be here.
All right, so my name is Festus. A little bit of correction. I'm not an intern, so I'm I just resumed for full time. I was an intern last year. So before business school, I worked with Zenith Bank for quite a bit. I did different function, risk management, investor relations, currency trading, marketing, operations. I had a bit of experience, right? Um, for undergrad, I went to the University of Ilorin and I studied economics. For grad school, I went to Arizona State University, um, concentrated largely in finance, but did a bunch of courses in analytics and entrepreneurship. Um, so basically, that was it. And last year, I interned at Amazon, FLDP. I'm now back for full time.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Festus. Yeah. What about your concentrations? Did you do any concentrations or specializations in your program while you were there? Or were there
Yeah.
programs that you took while you were in school that you think might have prepared you for your current role or even the recruitment process?
Yeah, my concentration was finance. And I think maybe for most business schools, you would be able to concentrate in maybe have multiple concentrations. But for me, I wanted to do finance. That wasn't what I set out to do, but getting to business school, having conversations around what my prospects were, I decided finance would be what would make the most sense. However, looking at the list of courses and programs that the school offers, I saw that I could take some courses in entrepreneurship. So I had just one concentration, but had a bunch of courses, borrowed a bunch of courses in different other concentrations. I did courses that spoke to my line of interest.
Awesome. That's really awesome. I'm going to come back to you regarding the fact that you said that wasn't initially what you planned to do and then you switched. I guess that's something that a lot of people that go through the MBA route they end up in that bucket. To be nice to understand how you made that switch and how you determined that was the right path for you. So Chuks, generally, can you explain to us what the product ops role is? Because in Nigeria, we have product devs, we have product managers, we also have product marketers. So a couple of people might not really understand what the role product ops is and how that is different from the PM role or the PMM role. Also, the SBU, the team that you work out from, I think that's platform and ecosystems at Google. Can you just explain to us, just help us understand what that's about? Thank you.
Right. Thanks so much. Product ops, for short, full form is product operations, is a ladder in Google. So there are several ladders like career paths in Google. So products is one of them. And then products entails four things: that is strategy, operations, data, analytics. So basically, the work that we do every day kind of falls across those four pillars. And then I work currently in the platforms and ecosystem strategy. So like in that org that I work in, products like Android, Chrome, Google Photos, there are about 9 products that fall under that cluster. So basically, I'm thinking about the strategy for those products, how we want to scale across the world, how we want to, maintain market share in critical markets. That's the kind of thing that we kind of do every day. So we kind of problem solve to come up with answers to those kind of questions.
Awesome. I think that gives more clarity to the job functions. Can you just map out what your recruitment process was like? Like Festus mentioned earlier, he was set on a different path before he got into school. Were you faced with that, or did you know right from the start that you wanted to do tech and you wanted to do product ops? Right, help us understand that, the whole process. And then also when you decided what you wanted to do, what was the, your recruitment process like? Probably was there an assessment and from there to an interview, and sorry, this might be a lot of questions at the same time, but what resources, did you use to prepare for your recruitment process, especially the interview, and how did you utilize them? If it's a lot of questions, I can take it one after the other, but let's just
I think that would be helpful. But let me start from the beginning. So when I started business school, my initial plan was to get into investment banking. That was what I wanted to do with the MBA. So I had done strategy at my company for 6+ years, and I felt like I wanted to do something else. So my goal for business school was investment banking. So I had trying to so like for my school, we have all these pre-MBA deliverables that you do before you start the program. So before that, I had tried to do everything to ensure that I get into investment banking. So when I had a one-on-one with my career coach, so I had told him, he told me, what are your goals? I told him I wanted to do investment banking, and then probably my plan B was probably to do tech, right? Then he told me that, hey, he looked at my CV and was like, you know what? He says he doesn't think it would be good for an international student like me who is kind of changing careers from what I was doing before to investment banking. So he told me that it is best that I lean towards my strength. So if I have background in strategy, why don't I leverage that for a career going forward? And so that was what kind of made me change my focus from investment banking to strategy and tech roles. So my plan kind of changed to consulting and tech, not investment banking anymore. So that informed how I began about preparing. So when it came to recruiting season, I was, targeting the top popular consulting companies, the McKinseys and the Bains, and then also for the tech companies too. I was looking at FANG, all the FANG companies and all that. So I had sent applications to all of them, and thankfully I got a couple of. I was shortlisted for some of these companies, and then I was able to recruit, and thankfully I was able to land at where I am today. But then I would say that my journey wasn't exactly straightforward. Like there were so many hiccups along the way. So I got so many rejections, and I would say that I kind of failed my way to Google because for each no's that I got, it was kind of pushing me towards my destination. So for each rejection that I was getting, I was kind of learning from each of the failures, and then when it was time for Google, I was ready, for that. So I kind of failed my way through. I would say it's for my journey, it was failing early and failing fast was very helpful because I'm grateful that I failed early on in the process before I then got to Google because I had learned from those failures, and then that helped me to land Google.
Awesome. Awesome. I like that. I recently heard a couple of days the term called failing forward, and that's exactly what you've described. Awesome. Thank you. Can you also what was the recruitment process like? Did you have like an assessment? How did you prepare for it? Did you have obviously you had an interview. What resources did you use and how did you utilize them?
Yeah, so because my primary focus was strategy roles, right? So strategy in consulting companies and strategy in tech companies. So casing was very important because like for each interview, you requires a problem solve. They give you a problem and then you have to kind of structure how you would approach the problem and then come up with recommendations. So I had to case a lot. So casing was part of my process. I joined the consulting club in my school, and then I cased with classmates, with second years, with practitioners in companies. I did tons of casing. But they say that one should do at least 40 cases to be in good form, like for recruiting. So I had a checklist of cases. I haven't got a book where I was casing. So for each case, I was, filling the book, and then I reviewed those cases. So I created a plan, like a casing plan, whereby every week I do 2 cases with the first year and then 1 with the second year. So that I was doing that every week. And then thankfully that kind of culminated in, the recruiting season, and I was able to navigate recruiting. So I would say if you're thinking of strategic roles in tech or non-tech companies, casing is very important. Then also the behaviorals too. So there are these questions where they tell me about the time you did something. And there's a typical way you approach those kind of questions. There's a STAR framework where you try to talk about those things that you did. So it might be very useful to have practice those things. Because like for me, when I started my failures in recruiting, I remember one of the first companies that I recruited, I think it was Salesforce. That was like in, I think October of last year. When I got to the interview, I just thought, hey, this is typical Nigerian interview. And I would just talk through my experiences, and I would just, at least go past the first round. But to my biggest shock, I was rejected first round because I hadn't done the work. I hadn't taken time to practice, right? So I learned from that error that, I should not carry my Nigerian thinking. So this is different and know how to practice. So that kind of helped me. So yeah.
Awesome. That's really awesome. Can you just sorry, before I move to Festus, like what materials do you use for your casing? Do you use Decode and Conquer, or what did you use for your casing? Sorry about that.
Yeah, so there is this case in points book that is widely recommended across schools. I think that's my starting point. And then different schools have their various case books. So Wharton has its case book, Kellogg has its case book. So I had, all the M7 case books, I had them, right? But for me, the one that was most beneficial to me was the Wharton case book, because for me, that just changed my perspective to casing, because when I learned the frameworks in that particular book, I was able to kind of shift my understanding of casing, and that kind of helped me to case much better. So I would highly recommend the Wharton case book.
Awesome. Thank you so much. That was great. Festus, you mentioned that you had an initial focus, right? And then it later on shifted to finance for the FLDP program. Can you just give us a sneak peek of that and help us to see the process of how that happened and how you transitioned?
Yeah, I think also that's a lot of learnings from what Chuks has said, and I would also borrow some just to reemphasize, I guess, along the line. For me, what I wanted to do for the longest time was more corporate finance, right? This informed some of the decisions that I'd taken earlier, like taking the CFA exams and things like that. So I really wanted to get into corporate finance. I landed in investor relations and currency trading functions. I did not enjoy it so very well. I thought, okay, going to an MBA would help, showing my background and things like that. Maybe it will be something that would be helpful. However, by the time I got to school, I was already too burnt out and things like I was already too tired, right? So I just wanted to do something different. So I did not want to do finance at all by the time I got to the school. So like you said, I met with my career coach, and I remember the conversation very clearly, where he said, okay, so what do you want to do? And I said, I don't know what I want to do, but I know what I don't want to do. I don't want to do finance at all. And he looked at my resume and he just could not understand why somebody would, with my background would make that type of decision. Then we kind of, broke it down. Okay, so you don't want to do finance. Is it that you don't want to do finance in a finance industry, or you don't want to do finance as, don't you want to do finance as an industry, or you don't want to do it as a function, right? I remember that I said, I think it's the industry, like the industry just kind of stresses me out. I would rather do it in a function where there's no, so I guess my strength is working towards an answer where there's no answer, right? Where there's, everything is ambiguous. That's not sort of what you would say for finance industry. So tech kind of stood out. Then I went to National Black and I was at Apple and we were having this conversation. And I said, I wanted to recruit that I want a finance role within supply chain. And this guy pulled me aside and we had this conversation. And he said, look, I'm looking at your resume and you want to do supply chain. And if I compare you with the people that work for me in my supply chain role, you are not in the top 90. So you are like in the bottom 10. I think that is a better way to put it, right? You are in the bottom 10. But if I look at my finance people, you are definitely in the top 10. So if you are sure that you don't want to do finance, maybe you should come in with finance. Then after 1 year, see if you like it. He spoke to me, understood the fact that I was an international student. He also was an international student when he came to the US. He said to me, what is obtainable in the US is very different from what is obtainable in Nigeria. So you try it out, see if it's something that you like. If you don't like it, you're already at Apple, so you can then switch roles. So I decided I was going to do that. So that was how I decided to recruit in finance for Amazon. And so far, so good. It has been completely different from what my experience was in Nigeria. A lot more strategic, a larger scale, a lot more impact. Yeah, so that's basically is how I landed in finance.
Awesome, awesome. That's really super. So like, just to recap everything that you've said, one needs to actually pay attention to their area of strength, which is evidenced by their past experience. I think you're 100% right, because I kind of realized when I go through LinkedIn and I check people's past career path and I see where they got into, there's always a link somewhere. There's always a link, even if you had, you had a finance background and you end up in tech. When you check the function, you see that there's a link somewhere, So that's pretty awesome. I was wondering, Festus, if you could, because Amazon is a great company, right? It's a great organization. And it's usually a tough one for people to crack, based on the fact that Amazon is big on culture, and they have this, their culture kind of stands out. What would be your advice to anyone that is looking to recruit into Amazon? What should they pay attention to apart from customer obsession?
Well, customer obsession is number one, but also realize that at the time you are the customer. So I would say you also have to obsess over yourself. A good starting point, and especially for people who are just first year students, so class of 2023, a good starting point is reflection. I would say this from my experience, because I do some sort of interview coaching for people. So I don't do a long stretch. So I do more, you already have an invite and you are hoping to land the job. So it's short sprints, 1 week at the max. And the last year I've worked with a bunch of people, right? So I would say that the first thing, and probably the most difficult thing you will do in the whole MBA period, is reflection, right? You need to reflect on your career to highlight your achievement, the things that you have achieved, the projects that you have been involved in. At a time that you are doing it, it may not look as much, right? It may be something that you did grudgingly. It may be something that nobody wanted to do it. And so you were the youngest person, right? Or you were the obote or something. They just dropped it on your lap, right? However, if that had some form of achievement, you want to be deliberate with it. Just like Chuk said, he had a book, he was taking notes and things like that. You want to create like a spreadsheet, right? List what you have been involved in and list the accomplishments, right? You can then kind of tie it back, much later, right? But that reflection bit, and why do I say that this is probably the most difficult? Because there's no guidance. There's nobody to, hold your hands to say, this is what you need to do, to remember those things for you. I remember that my resume, I showed it to somebody that we worked together, and he could not believe it simply because it wasn't something that we were paying attention to. It was something, day-to-day task come up, you just kill it and you move on, right? But now you are recruiting, you are an MBA student, you have to be a little bit more deliberate, right? You want to reflect over what you have done. This is tough, in my experience, because you just have to walk back maybe 2 years of experience, 3 years of experience, 5 years of experience, some people 10 years of experience, to really pick out the things that you have achieved. That is one. Then the second thing is you want to have a good resume. Yeah. I know that, a lot of the people here at Career Services, they do excellent work with resume, but for yourself, right, you want to be sure that your resume has personality, right? If you give me your resume and I'm looking at it, I should be able to say, this is this type of person. This person is action oriented. This person is customer obsessed. This person, is comfortable with ambiguity. It should come out to me. That is what a good resume is, right? Apart from having a good resume, I would say it's not important for you to be fixated, right? To say, this is what I wanted to do, or this is what I want to do. Like Chuk said, he wanted to do investment banking. It is not important for you to know what you want to do, but it is much more important for you to know who you are, right? This is America. There's possibilities all over the place, right? So if you are looking at, say, $100,000 in salary, you can do that in a shitty job and you get 100,000, and you can do that in an exciting job and you get 100,000. What's the difference? The difference is how much more you know yourself and know what is convenient for you. So I would also say that networking helps. So for me, I have a template that I use. I send you a friend request, maybe on LinkedIn, and I would have, just a short introduction to say, this is what I'm looking for. What that does for you is that as the opportunities, so especially with tech, right, you would see on LinkedIn that a lot of tech people post openings. So because they are recruiting aggressively, they may not, there may be latency following the normal route. So they post these things on LinkedIn. The good thing for you is that if you're already connected to them, you become aware of those opportunities. And looking through the roles, just like what we said about, reflections, you can see where you tie with the role. You can open your book, say the things that you have reflected on, things you have written out, and say, oh, I tie with this role. They are looking for somebody like me. If you have a resume that has a personality, you can say they are looking for somebody like me, and you immediately sort of have that. So I would say these are my top 3 in terms of where the class of 2023 is. For class of 2022, I would expect that a lot of those things you have done them, right? The other bit of it would be intervene, and that's a completely different conversation. And I'm happy to go into it if you have some time.
Awesome. That's like super, super great. And I learned, a lot from everything that you have said so far. So I'll just want to say that is there anything else that you've mentioned that I could see from your LinkedIn profile that you're a CFA and you have lots of great experience so far, which obviously was like a standout for you. But apart from those things, what do you think made your candidacy so strong for across, not even just for Amazon, like, across all the places where you recruited?
So like Chooks too, I failed a lot, and I failed miserably. There are sometimes you feel like you how do they say it in Nigeria? You fall your own hand. You go look yourself, say, my for. That happens to me a lot, right? But the base of my failure was in my inability to own my achievements and to communicate that. I was lucky that at ASU, and of course, this is, when I was recruiting for business school, I spoke to a lot of schools, and I eventually pursued just ASU, largely because of this mentorship program that they have. It was one of the things I felt that this was something that I needed. And this as a platform would be something that I'll be able to leverage, right? So my mentor, her name is Karen Cowell. You can look her up on LinkedIn. She is an executive coach. So this is what she does for a living. She's an executive coach. She coaches C-level executives, name it, your top 25 companies in the world. This is what she does for a living, right? So it was it was a good opportunity for me to go into that space and say, what would you have me do, right? She did a lot of coaching for me in terms of how to interview. So I think that along the line, I developed this very helpful interviewing skill. And I would say that it was a helpful interview skill because I remember my interview at Apple. It was a 30 minutes interview. I got to 15 minutes and this guy said, look, I am okay. I've gotten everything that I want out of this conversation. So this is why I said I very good interviewing skill. So for me, I would say maybe my interviewing skill, apart from my background, I've had finance experience. I have done a lot of cost savings projects. I have done a lot of big ticket transactions, right? I've done investor relations where, I was doing calls for Zenith Bank, or I was on call for Zenith Bank with international clients and things like that. So I guess that was helpful, but more importantly was the ability to interview very well.
Awesome. That's really good. And how can we develop that? we should holler at you after, right? After this session.
Yeah, I can delve into it. So I'll talk about it from the angle of just speaking from my experience. So this is not a blanket recommendation, right? So I would speak from my experience. So like I said, I do this interview coaching. If you have an interview, what I want is you already have the interview. So they say, come and interview in a week. Good, I can work with you. So the last year, I think from last summer till when I resumed, I had worked with maybe 17 people, and all 17 people got the offers. I think the big point here is that there was nobody that I worked with that did not get an offer, right? And one of the things that you would notice is the fact that people may not be able to tell a good story. They may not be able to tell a story of their accomplishment. Chooks already mentioned the STAR interviewing method when it comes to behavioral interview. Casing is, completely different. That is something you have to get on point, just exactly the way he mentioned it. But I'll delve a little into behavioral interview because you come across that almost everywhere. For me, you want to get your structure and your content correctly. Your structure, he said the STAR method. However, for me, I use a method called S star. So there's an S in front of the star. And that S that is in front of the star is a summary. So if you're telling a good story, you should not tell me or how you woke up and you went to New York and you got a coffee. I am wondering, where are you going?
Where is this leading to?
If you told me, Festus, I want to tell you how my money went, I know completely. So the whole content of woke up, you got coffee, you went to New York, that is not, that I am expecting that. So I can fit that into that bucket. So the first thing in my structure is a summary. So tell me what you want to tell me about. So you are going to say, oh, this is a story of when I was a child, or this is a story of my childhood, or this is a story of how I met Queen Elizabeth. Then the whole content, I am patient enough to go with you in that story. Because what you would realize is that, especially with the star, it is difficult to do the situation if you don't do a summary at the beginning. The situation, you would realize that your interviewers start wondering, where is this story leading to? And they don't pay attention to the details you are sharing.
Yep.
Now, that situation, what you want to do is set a good context. So if you look at the good storytellers, so if you read a Chimamanda book, for example, and she sets a scene, let's say we are talking about Papa Ajasco, right? Oh, Papa Ajasco lives in a village and he has 5 wives and 30 daughters. It's there's nothing that comes out again that you are not able to link to that situation. So you want to set a good context with this was the setting. So just imagine it's like a movie. What does the ground look like? What is the deliverable? Who was your manager? What was the company trying to accomplish? What was the situation that the company was in? What was the economy like? Things like that. So you want to set a good scene. Now the task is it's probably the shortest part of it. The only thing you need to answer is, what was the problem? What is the problem statement? So this solution that I created, what was the problem? Why did I create this solution? Then the action bit is the one that everybody does well. Tell me what you did. However, a good structure is for you to say, this was what I did, and this was why I did it. Don't just tell me what you did, because for all I care, your village people might be whispering to you. If you come to Google, for example, will they follow you and be whispering to you? Give me a reason why you did that. So I want to be able to, and what that does for you is that I can transport you. So you say you work at InterSwitch. I don't need to know what InterSwitch is about. Awesome. I can transport you from InterSwitch and say, if Chuks had done exactly the same thing at Amazon, what result would he have gotten? Awesome. So if you give me a why, you can tell me your reasoning, and I can know that, you are recruiting in most cases, right? If you're an MBA grad and they're recruiting you in almost any organization, they are not recruiting you as a process person. They are recruiting you as a big vision person. They are recruiting you to think, and you want to show that thinking. So you want to show your ability to think. So you want to say, this was why I did, this was what I thought about. This was what I hoped to achieve. I did X, but the reason why I did X was Y. Now, the final portion of that is the result. The result is surprisingly, this is the one that people do the worst, just in my experience, especially international students, because that's just not the way we think. We don't brag, right? It's like, Obasabi, who sent you message, this type of things. This is your opportunity to shine. This is the one you want to do. Now, a good framework for doing it is, don't just go into the results for yourself. You want to answer the question, and in this order, right? In this order, where you start from is, what is the result for your company? What is the result for your company? Did you increase revenue? Did you reduce cost? Did you increase hiring? Did you increase visibility? Did you do something for, maybe a company has a goal, right? So what was the result for the company? Always, and I have heard this thousands of times, I will say, oh, this was a small project. It had no result. It had a result for the company. I worked with somebody that worked at MTN, and his idea had been scaled internationally, and he's not even aware, right? So that bit of reflection that we spoke about, you doing your research on it, can help you in this regard. So what was the result for your company? What was the result for your team? Did management, started to look at your team in a different light? Did it position your team as an expert team? So, for example, I'm a CFA charter holder. I go into risk management, right? I turn out a work or something in a different way that it had been done before. So this is a report that had been done before. But because I came in, I imagined myself in that position, making that decision. I asked the question, what would my CEO need from this report? Instead of us just churning out results, like reports like robots, we can ask the question, what are they going to do with this? Then I redesigned the template, right? And I said, this is how we are going to report this now, because I'm able to incorporate that. Now, the reports that we send to the CEO and nobody asked questions, they started asking questions. They started, because of the report, taking action. You see, it has positioned your team differently. You are now an expert team. So what was the result for your team? What was the result for your manager? Did your manager get promoted? Did your manager get to speak for the company? So maybe you are doing investor relations call before and your manager doesn't attend, but because you did that small dashboard change that took you 5 minutes to come up with, they started inviting your manager. That's a big project, right? And that is something that has a big impact. So what was the result for your manager? Then finally, what was the result for you? You don't want to talk about promotion or compensation or you got an award. What you want to talk about is what you learned from there. So what did you realize? What level of realization
awards.
did you?
No award. As in, we shouldn't talk about award. Personal award.
Award is a little too personal, right? But a good way to talk about award was that, oh, I learned this and I also got this. You don't want to make award the main attraction. So you want to say like in person.
Okay.
You want to say it's like in person, in passing. So I realized that, doing a project of this level, I needed a level of cooperation and collaboration across teams. And starting early was something that really helped me. And in fact, I got this award as a result.
Okay, I see that.
So this is in terms of structure. Now, in terms of content, please, when you are writing your resume, when you are writing, talking about your achievements, don't talk about the one that was the most stressful for you to do. Talk about the one that had the most results. So what people tend to do is, I suffer for this project, so I need to write it. What you need to do, which one got even if it's 5 minutes, so for me, during my internship, I had office hours. I think a lot of you that are 2022, you know what office hours are. I had an office hour and people came into my office hour. One of the people that came into my office hours came to ask me a question and said, look, I'm trying to do this. Is this the correct way of doing it? And I said, no, this is not the correct way of doing it. Do it this way. And based on the advice, I mean, this is a 2 minutes, 3 minutes conversation, right? Based on the advice that I gave the person, they were able to, because they restructured the payments, right? They made $1 million in savings.
Wow.
As against what they would have done before. Now, imagine me now saying, it is the project that I suffered on. That's the one I want to talk about. You're not going to get a lot of content. You want to talk about the one, it's 2 minutes, it's fine. But you got results. You saved $1 million, fine. Put it in your achievements.
Awesome.
So
awesome.
A lot of it, structure and content. So your content also, you want to make sure that that personality that we talked about before, your content shows that personality. Again, in most cases when you're interviewing, they're asking you one or two questions. So I don't need to go through all of your stories for your personality to come out. So for example, if you're interviewing at Amazon, you want to do one story, yeah? Your one story. You want to show at the very least 5 leadership principles. I want to show that you are biased for action. I want to see that I want to see that you are customer obsessed. I want to see that you can think big. I want to see that you can dive deep. You want to show all of this in that one story. And you don't want to say, oh, I can dive deep, right? A good way of telling that story is that you can tell it in a story and I can come up with that conclusion myself. So don't conclude and feed me with it. So don't say I'm a big thinker. You want to just highlight the exact thing so that I can come and say, oh, Chooks is a very big thinker. You want me to come up with that conclusion. You just tell your story, tell it very well, such that I can come to that conclusion. So, another one that I see is people use a lot of adjectives. So you say, oh, this was a very important, what's the time? I'm taking too much time. So I did a session with somebody who had worked on cancer, cancer drugs, cancer projects. And I was saying, oh, this was a very important medical breakthrough. I said, I don't understand what important means. You are the one feeding me that conclusion. Yeah. What I need is for me to come up with that. So we restructured it and said this was something that affected 13 million people globally. If you tell me your project affected 13 million, you don't need to tell me it's important.
Awesome.
I know that.
Awesome.
You understand? So I'm coming to that conclusion by myself. So essentially, this is how you develop a very good content. So structure and content, the other bit of it, delivery, things like that, but these are the ones that are like the high value tickets. You want to have a good structure and have a good content.
That was awesome, Festus. Thank you so much. So many great tips in there. Thank you so much. So that we don't really run out of time, Chooks, can you, I had some more questions, but we probably, So Chooks, can you just give us like your suggestions and advice for two sets of people. First set of people, prospective MBA candidates that are looking to apply, starting this fall. What should they do after they get, their admission towards, what should they start doing early after they get their admission towards their start, to prepare for tech recruiting. Then the second set of people will be people in my own shoes, right? Thank you.
Yeah, so I think I would start with people in your shoes first, and probably that would then go backwards to people who are prospecting. So I would say the first thing to do is to apply to several companies. It's a numbers game. So the more companies you apply to, the more your chances of being shortlisted. So the first thing is to apply to several companies, and then don't be too picky about the companies you apply to, because for us international students, you can't afford to be too picky. Apply to several companies, and then once you have done that, I think the next thing to do is to begin to prepare. So I think for most tech companies, I think like around January, February, people start getting offers to those companies. So that would mean that by January, you should already be like in game mode. You should already be ready for recruiting, because that is how you make the best of the whole process. So I think for like a Microsoft, I think they probably start reaching out like early on, like around September, October, or thereabout. So it would serve you well to, start, going through behaviorals like has been shared already by Festus. Have your stories intact, your structure, your content, have them all ready. And then for companies like Google that have some casing bits in their recruiting processes, so also have your casing on check. Case, do everything you need to do your behaviorals. And then I think Amazon is largely behaviorals, right? And I think their recruiting is around the 14 principles. So have your stories aligned to each of those pillars, because that would help you navigate the whole recruiting process. So for those tech companies, try to prepare extensively, and then also have your documents ready. So one thing I'll also say is that for me, I think it is very pertinent to prioritize recruiting to academics. Why? Because academics, yeah, I mean, it's for like your first year, you would have so many things going on. You have assignments, you have things with school, which is good, but then at the same time, you shouldn't lose focus of what is important. For us international students, recruiting is really the end game of all this whole 2 years of the MBA. So whatever time you devote to schoolwork, also try to create time for recruiting, because recruiting is very important and it takes so much time. So I would say prioritize recruiting over academics, because at the end of the day, that's really what really matters.
Yeah.
So yeah, then bringing it back to people who are trying to get into school and then who are preparing for the MBA program. I would say the first thing is to know the kind of schools you want to go to, because there are certain schools that based on tech. So like, let's say if you wanted to in my current Google class, like those of us the MBAs that are there, I think over 50% of us are from M7, right? I mean M7 schools. So for some reason, I mean, people will tell you not to focus on those schools, but based on what I've seen, it seems there is something about going to those schools that really helps with recruiting. So I would say if you're planning for schools to go to, try to know the kind of school you want to go to, because some schools have leverage with tech companies. So like, for example, schools like Stanford, schools like USC in California, Google is in California. So like there is some form of link between the location of the school and then where the company is. So having to map out the kind of school you want to go to and based on the industry you're focusing on, that also helps in the recruiting process.
Awesome.
I hope that helps in any way.
Yes. Awesome. That's really, really great. So I think at this point in time, we might want to take questions. I don't know. I think this is about one. This program is supposed to be at 1 hour, but I don't know if we have the opportunity to spill over an hour. I don't know. So the first question says, please give us a very brief background of your professional experience. Okay, no, this was. So do we have? Okay, let me go see questions from.
There's a question from
Shedrack, okay. Wow. Did you read that, Abdul? Do you want to just quickly, because this is a long
so
question.
Let me take that.
Okay.
But before I take that, I want to echo what Chuck said. Now, when you get to school, you're in a graduate program in America, it is very demanding, right? The focusing on academics is the easy one. You focus on academics. There's leadership when it comes to academics. So what I mean by leadership is that even if you don't want to do it, the assignments have deadline. Your lecturers would give you the assignment, this, that. So, there's something to direct you, to tell you where to go. When it comes to recruiting, it is your own personal timeline. Nobody is telling you, nobody will say, oh, because you did not submit your assignment, you did not connect on time, I'm going to take 2 marks away. Nobody's going to say that. You have to do that for yourself. So you have to prioritize recruiting. And because that is the difficult part, it takes you being able to organize yourself to be able to land a job. You are going to have to iterate on your processes and be a completely different person from the person that came into the program if you are going to land a job, right? Then the question from Shadrach was about, so he said he's been interested in data and analytics, but he also wants to do finance. And I think that may be directed to me because of my background. Yeah. What I would say is that it is essentially one and the same thing. You cannot say, oh, it's only finance or free cash flow and things like that now that I know. And I don't know data and analytics. It just doesn't add up. The analytics is a tool. Your ability to work with data is a tool. It's like cutlass, right? You can use it to do anything. If you carry cutlass, you can use it to cut fish. You can use it to cut tree. You can use it to cut this thing. Data and analytics is like that. Depends on what you want to use it for. Finance is what you want to use. So my point here is that it's one and the same thing. Your data skills is highly valuable. And I mean highly valuable when it comes to finance, because you would see that that is the way the industry is going. Everything now is about data. Everybody expects you to be able to manipulate data, to interpret it, to be able to use it. Your distinction compared to a BIE engineer, for example, is your ability to interpret that data, right? You can say, this is what this data is telling us. This is the decision we need to make with it, because you sort of have that finance background. You understand some things, right? So I'd say it's one and the same thing. Your data analytics is very highly valuable in finance.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Festus. Do we have any other questions? And you guys can feel free to unmute yourself and switch on your video, or not switch on your video, just to take it fast. If you have any questions, instead of typing, you can just unmute to ask your questions. Let's do that briefly, please, if there are any questions.
Hi, yeah, I have one for
Awesome,
Festus or Chooks, any of them. With regards to, I know you guys have spoken a lot about recruiting and interviewing and liaising with career services, but what do you believe is the best system? First, said something about creating a template and noting those you have interacted with. But what do you believe is the best system? Not only to just keep track with those you have had the opportunity to network with, but also sort out those who you intend to network with in the future.
So this, if I get your question correctly, so this is about keeping track of networking, right? Right. So
yes.
I would say there are different layers to your network, right? And it's on use. So for example, if I'm interacting with you and I think that I would hold you for a long time in my network, so maybe you are like a mentor or something, it's a completely different conversation compared to, say, somebody works, you are looking at Google, for example. So for me, I remember that when I was recruiting at Amazon, I would send out up to 50 connection requests a day. And the reason why I'm doing this is because, so if you send out 50 connection requests, so maybe you get 5 is a good response rate. If you get 5 out of 50, it's very good. It means that your strategy works very well. You may not get anything back. They may not accept your connections, but you want to grow that. Your purpose is to be aware of the opportunities when they come up, right? If you have interview going on, your purpose is you want to be able to get insights into that interview. So for me, when I was going to recruit at Amazon, I remember that I did mock interviews with 13 different people. And there are some people that I mock interviewed with 3 times. And I mock interview with 13 different people. That is, sort of what you are getting out of it. So you want to send out as many invites as possible. It is the one that they accept and what they can do for you that you kind of keep track of. Along the line, as they are posting opportunities on LinkedIn, it becomes very helpful for you. You can then say, oh, if it's a role that you're interested in, you can then send a message to the person and say, oh, I saw this role. Are you willing to talk to me about it? They see that you're on their network. Maybe they probably don't remember you. They just assume that you have met somewhere. They are more likely to create time to chat with you, and you can pick their brains. When it comes to, say, a much longer connection and things like that, I personally do along interest. That is not as aggressive as when you're interviewing. I do along the lines of interest. So areas that I'm interested in, I look for somebody that is interested in the same thing. So maybe Chooks can give additional.
Thanks so much. I wanted to add that along the lines of networking, also the place of attending webinars is also helpful. So for me, in one of my interviews, so I think I was interviewing with Visa at the time, and then we had this series of webinars, like I think over 2 weeks, and then I was in Nigeria then, and then that required me to wake up like around 1 a.m. Nigerian time to attend those sessions. But as fate will have it, so I attended 2 of them, and then they said they were doing a promo for someone to have a one-on-one with a senior director at Visa. And luckily, I was one of those. I was the person that was picked, right? And then when I had my session with him, he then gave me tips on how to navigate recruiting. So when I got the rejection from Visa, we had a recap session, both of us, and in fact, he showed me my assessment form, what the panelists wrote about me, and they told me what I could do to improve going forward. And I took that learning to Google, and that made me learn Google. So I would say don't downplay the place of attending webinars organized by companies. Attend them, try to participate, because somehow you could meet somebody who could, help you along your recruiting process.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Chooks. Awesome. Adibole just posted a question for Festus. He said that he didn't get the coach you mentioned. By the way, Adibole, you can also reach Festus. I don't know. I think you can also reach him after the call, but he's saying that he didn't get the name of the lady coach you mentioned.
Yeah, I put the answer in the chat.
Okay, awesome. Yeah. Thank you, Sin. So in the absence of any other questions, so I guess we'll just round up. I want to say a very, very big thank you to Festus and Chooks for gracing this program and answering our many questions and giving us so much. Like, this session has been one of the most impactful sessions I've had in a while. Yeah, so thank you so much. And I'll definitely be personally reaching out to both of you at different points in time. Once again, thank you so very much. And thank you to Abdul and the Lantern/Lane program for hosting this session. Thank you.
Thank
So
you.
I'll hand over to you, Abdul. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you guys for having me. Yusuf and Samuel and Ozana, everybody on the call. I guess it's impressive what you guys are doing. This is something that serves a purpose. You're making a greater need, and you should be proud of what you are doing here. I don't want you to take it for granted. I think that if these sessions help one person or 2 people, it's something that you should be proud of. I'm proud of what you have done so far, the community you guys have built. It's quite impressive.
Thank you, Festus. Honored. I'm flattered. Stop smiling. But really, I want to say a big thank you to Simi, Festus, and Chooks. For those of you who are not here, I said it initially and I'll say it now. Festus is the reason I'm on this path. Like I would say it here, I'll brag it anyway. I think we met in Lagos, and he really was the one who gingered me, using that word, to push on and strive for better. So thank you so much, Festus. Thank you so much, Chooks, for your hour and your time. I know how expensive it is, and what we have taken from you guys today. Thank you so much for giving to us. And also thank you to Samuel and Ahmed and Hosanna for the platform to stand on. And also, yeah, to all those here will still here. Next week we'll be having Tumi, another in the make of Essence. Tony's story is also long. She was the one of those who brought us this far. And she will be talking about interviewing and recruiting tips, Titan R. And for that, would also, the week after, we'll be having individuals in investment banking, Barclays and some other banks for those who are interested. But thank you again for this so much. On behalf of Lantern, and I'll want to step out and tell also on behalf of me and everyone involved. Thank you guys so much. For those who have made it here, please do go ahead and have a lovely Sunday, whatever time it is. Yeah, bye.
And guys, you can invite your friends in your current MBA programs, even if they are not Africans, so that they can be part of these international students. This event can also benefit them also. So thank you for being here. Thank you, Mentor. Amelia. Thank you, Chooks.
Tommy is very good. Yeah, having Tommy next week, right? Tommy is very good. So you should, prepare to drill her very well. Get a lot of value out of what she's gonna say. Bring your pens and paper, invite your friends. Tommy is really good.
Yes, she is. I will do just that.
All right.
Which Tommy is it? Anu Tommy. Titan R.
Yeah.
Okay, awesome.
All right, guys. Bye.
Yes, there is an email you can reach us on. Someone is asking for email. Abdul. Okay, for Mr. Festus, you can look him up on LinkedIn. You want to reach out to him.